Princess Valeth Sorn had never seen a human before today. She stood in the great throne room of the Celestine Dominion, hidden behind a pillar of blue crystal. Her heart was beating fast. Her silver scales caught the light as she watched the guards drag someone through the massive doors. The human was tall. Not as tall as her people, but taller than she expected. He had dark hair, dirty and messy from battle. His skin was a strange, soft color, not covered in scales like hers. His hands were bound in gravity chains that glowed with purple energy. Blood covered his torn uniform. Cuts and bruises marked his face. But his eyes were what caught her attention. They were blue-gray, like storm clouds before rain. And they were not afraid. This confused Valeth deeply. She had studied humans her whole life. Her teachers called them the rending species. They said humans were dangerous animals who killed without reason. They said humans had no honor, no culture, no souls. They were monsters who had somehow learned to build starships. But this human did not look like a monster. He looked tired. He looked hurt. But he walked with his back straight and his head high. Even in chains, High General Torvax stepped forward. He was the greatest warrior in the Dominion. His red scales gleamed with battle scars. And his voice boomed through the throne room. "Emperor Kael'Thrun," Torvax announced. "I present the human called Marcus Cole. He is a commander in their military. During our attack on Outpost Viridia, this single human killed 47 of our finest soldiers." Whispers filled the room. 47? One human had killed 47 Celestine warriors? Valeth felt her blood go cold. Her father, Emperor Kael'Thrun, sat on his throne of frozen starlight. He was ancient and powerful, with scales that had turned from silver to deep gold with age. His eyes were sharp as knives. 47, the Emperor repeated slowly. "Tell me, human, how did you accomplish this?" The human Marcus Cole lifted his head. When he spoke, his voice was rough but steady. "They were trying to kill innocent people. I stopped them." "Innocent people?" The Emperor laughed. It was a cold sound, like ice cracking. "There are no innocent people in war, human. There are only the strong and the weak." "Then we see the universe very differently," Marcus replied. Valeth held her breath. No one talked to her father like that. No one. But Emperor Kael'Thrun only smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I have heard that humans are strange creatures. You fight wars for ideas instead of territory. You die for strangers. You show mercy to enemies." He leaned forward. "Tell me, human, why did you not escape with the others? You could have lived." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because someone had to stay behind. Someone had to make sure the evacuation ships got away safely. The people on those ships, they were families, children, old people, sick people. They could not fight. So you sacrificed yourself for weaklings?" General Torvax laughed. "This is why humans will never defeat us. You waste your strength on those who do not matter." Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. Valeth thought it might be anger. But when he spoke, his voice was calm. "Everyone matters, General. That is something your people have forgotten." The Emperor waved his hand. He was bored now. "Enough. Execute him at dawn. Make it public. Let all humans see what happens to those who resist the Dominion." The guards grabbed Marcus and began dragging him away. As he passed Valeth's hiding spot, his eyes found hers. Just for a second. Just for a heartbeat. And in that second, she saw something that shook her to her core. He was not looking at her with hatred. He was not looking at her with fear. He was looking at her with understanding. As if he could see past her scales and her royal blood to the person underneath. As if he saw her as a person, not an enemy. Then he was gone, and Valeth was left alone with her racing thoughts. That night, she could not sleep. She kept thinking about what General Torvax had said. Outpost Viridia. 47 soldiers. She had heard about the attack, of course. Everyone had. It was supposed to be a great victory for the Dominion, but something did not feel right. Against her better judgment, Valeth went to the palace archives. She was a princess. She had access to records that normal people could not see. She began searching through files about Outpost Viridia. What she found made her sick. Outpost Viridia was not a military base. It was a refugee camp. 3,000 people lived there, humans, yes, but also Korthons and Valari and other species displaced by the war. Families who had lost their homes, children who had lost their parents. And her father's army had attacked it anyway. Marcus Cole had not killed 47 soldiers while defending a military position. He had killed 47 soldiers while defending a school, an orphanage, a hospital filled with wounded civilians. Valeth sat in the dark archive room, her hands shaking. Everything she had been taught said humans were monsters, savage beasts who killed for pleasure. But Marcus Cole had stayed behind to protect children who were not even his own species. He had fought against impossible odds. He had been captured and beaten and sentenced to death. And when he looked at her, he had not seen an enemy. He had seen a person. So who was the real monster here? Valeth did not know anymore. But she had until dawn to figure it out. And something told her that what she decided would change everything. The 3 moons of Celestine Prime hung low in the sky. Their pale light poured through the crystal windows of the palace. Princess Valeth walked through empty corridors, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She had not slept at all. Her mind was too full of questions. The archive files had changed everything. All her life, she had been told that humans were evil, that they attacked without reason, that they destroyed everything they touched. But Marcus Cole had fought to protect children. He had sacrificed his freedom, his life, for people who were not even his own kind. That was not the behavior of a monster. Valeth stopped at a window and looked out at the sleeping city below. Millions of her people lived there, all believing the same lies she had believed, all thinking humans were nothing but dangerous animals. What else had she been wrong about? She thought about her teachers. They had shown her videos of human violence. Wars fought on their homeworld. Weapons that could destroy entire cities. They had said, "Look at these creatures. They cannot even stop fighting each other. They are savage by nature." But they had never shown her humans building hospitals. They had never shown her humans adopting orphans from other species. They had never shown her a human soldier staying behind to die so that strangers could live. Why not? Valeth knew the answer. It was because her father did not want his people to see humans as people. It was easier to conquer someone if you believed they were less than you. It was easier to kill if you thought you were killing animals instead of families. Her stomach turned with disgust. Before she knew what she was doing, Valeth found herself walking toward the detention level. The guards there would question her presence. But she was a princess. She could go where she wanted. The detention level was cold and dark. The cells were carved from black stone that absorbed all light. It was meant to break prisoners, to make them feel hopeless and alone. 2 guards stood outside one particular cell. They straightened when they saw her approach. "Your Highness," one of them said, surprised. "This area is restricted. The human prisoner is dangerous. This area is restricted." "I am aware," Valeth cut him off. Her voice was ice. Her mother had taught her how to speak like this, how to make people obey without raising her voice. "I am here to interrogate the prisoner before his execution." "Open the door." The guards looked at each other nervously. "Your Highness," the Emperor gave orders that no one. "I am the Emperor's daughter." Valeth let her eyes grow hard. "Are you refusing a direct command from the royal family?" That was enough. The guard stepped aside and opened the cell door. Valeth walked in alone. The cell was small and bare. No bed. No chair. Just cold stone walls and a single light that barely pushed back the darkness. Marcus Cole sat against the far wall. His eyes closed, but she knew he was not sleeping. "Princess." His voice was quiet in the darkness. "I wondered if you would come." Valeth felt a chill run down her spine. "You knew I was watching? In the throne room?" I saw you hiding behind that pillar. He opened his eyes. In the dim light, they looked more gray than blue. You were the only person in that room who looked at me like I was a person. Everyone else looked at me like I was an animal. 8. She did not know what to say to that. So she asked the question that had been burning inside her all night. Why did you do it? Why did you stay behind at Viridia? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke slowly, like he was choosing his words carefully. There was a little girl. She was Corthan, you know that species? 4 arms, big dark eyes. She was maybe 6 years old. During the attack, she got separated from her family. I found her hiding under some broken metal, crying. Valeth listened without breathing. Your soldiers were coming. I could hear them. I had maybe 30 seconds to decide. I could run and save myself. Or I could pick up that little girl and try to get her to the last evacuation ship. What did you do? What do you think I did? Marcus almost smiled. I picked her up, carried her 3 kilometers while your people shot at us. Got her on that ship with 2 seconds to spare. And then the ship left, and I was alone, and your army found me. He shrugged like it was nothing. But she got away. That is what matters. Valeth shook her head. She did not understand. You almost died for a stranger, a child from another species. Why? What did you gain? Marcus looked at her with those strange human eyes. I did not do it to gain something, princess. I did it because it was right. Because she was scared and alone, and I could help. But that does not make sense. You are a soldier. Your job is to fight and win. Sacrificing yourself for one child is... It is illogical. Maybe. Marcus leaned his head back against the stone wall. Humans are not always logical. We feel things deeply. When we see someone suffering, we want to help, even if it costs us everything. Your people call that a strength? We call it being human. Valeth stood in silence, processing his words. Her whole life, she had been taught that emotions were weakness, that true strength meant being cold and calculating, that caring for others made you vulnerable. But looking at this human beaten, chained, hours from death, she did not see weakness. She saw something she did not have a word for. Something that frightened her and fascinated her at the same time. The execution is at dawn, she finally said. My father will not change his mind. I know. You will die, probably. And you are not afraid? Marcus smiled then. It was a sad smile, but real. I am terrified, princess. But fear is not the same as regret. I do not regret what I did. If I had to choose again, I would make the same choice every time. Valeth felt tears burning in her eyes. She blinked them back. Princesses did not cry. I could try to help you, she whispered. I do not know how, but no. His voice was firm but gentle. Do not risk yourself for me. You have a good heart. I can see that. Your people need someone like you. Someone who asks questions. Someone who sees the truth. Do not throw that away. So I should just let you die? You should live. He held her gaze. Live. And remember what you learned tonight. Remember that humans are not monsters. Remember that your father lied to you. And when the time comes, use that truth to make things better. Valeth wanted to argue. She wanted to scream that it was not fair, but she knew he was right. If she tried to save him openly, her father would destroy her. And then nothing would ever change. I have to go, she said quietly. I know. She walked to the door, then stopped. Commander Cole? Commander Cole? Yes? The little girl. The Corthan child. Did she say anything to you? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, she asked if I was scared. I told her yes. She said that was okay. She said brave people are just scared people who do not run away. Valeth felt those words sink into her heart like stones into water. A child taught you that? Children often see things more clearly than adults. She left the cell without another word. The guards sealed the door behind her. She walked through the dark corridors of the palace, her mind racing. Dawn was coming. In a few hours, Marcus Cole would die, unless she did something impossible. Valeth did not know yet what that something was, but as she climbed the stairs to her chambers, she made a decision. She would not stand by and watch an innocent man be executed. She would not let her father's lies win. She was scared, but brave people were just scared people who did not run away. Dawn was 1 hour away. Valeth sat in her chambers, surrounded by old books and ancient scrolls. She had been reading all night, searching, hoping, looking for any law, any tradition, any loophole that could save Marcus Cole. Her eyes were tired, her hands were shaking. But she refused to give up. The Celestine Dominion was old. Very old. It had existed for 10,000 years. And in that time, many laws had been written. Most people had forgotten the ancient traditions. But Valeth had always loved history. She had spent years studying the old ways. Now that knowledge might save a life. She turned another page in a dusty book. And then she found it. The Right of Champions Challenge. Valeth read the passage 3 times to make sure she understood. According to this ancient law, any member of the royal family could claim a condemned prisoner as their champion. The prisoner would then fight in single combat. If they won, they earned their freedom. If they lost, they died, but so did the royal who had claimed them. It was a dangerous law. A royal was putting their own life on the line. That was why no one had used it in over 1,000 years. But it was still legal. It had never been removed from the books. Valeth closed her eyes and thought carefully. If she invoked this right, Marcus would have to fight. He was injured and weak. He would be given a simple weapon against a Celestine warrior with advanced technology. The odds were terrible, but it was a chance, a small chance, better than no chance at all. The question was, who would he fight? Valeth thought about the warriors in her father's court. Most of them were cruel. They would use tricks and poison. They would cheat to win. Marcus would have no hope against them, but there was one warrior who never cheated. One warrior who believed in honor above all else. High General Torvax. Torvax was the deadliest fighter in the Dominion. He had won over 200 duels. No one had ever defeated him, but he always fought fair. He never used tricks. He believed that true victory came only through honest combat. If Valeth chose Torvax as the opponent, Marcus would face the most dangerous warrior in the Empire. But he would also face the most honorable one. It would be a fair fight. It was a crazy plan. It was almost certainly going to fail, but it was all she had. Valeth stood up and walked to her mirror. She looked at her reflection. A young princess with silver scales and frightened eyes. She did not look like someone who could change history, but then she remembered what Marcus had told her. Brave people are just scared people who do not run away. She was terrified. She was not going to run. Valeth put on her ceremonial armor. It was made of white metal that shone like moonlight. She had never worn it before. It was meant for important occasions, for moments that would be remembered. This was going to be one of those moments. The execution was scheduled to take place in the palace square. Thousands of Celestine citizens had gathered to watch the human die. They filled the square like a silver sea, their scales catching the light of the rising sun. A platform had been built in the center. Guards stood at attention. Cameras floated in the air, ready to broadcast the execution across the entire Dominion. Emperor Kael Thrun sat on a raised throne, looking down at the crowd. Beside him sat the Empress and the other members of the royal family. Valeth's place was empty. The guards brought Marcus Cole onto the platform. He looked worse than before. They had not treated his wounds. They had not let him sleep. He could barely stand. But his eyes were still clear. Still unafraid. The crowd jeered and shouted. They threw things at him. They called him monster, animal, beast. Marcus did not react. He stood straight and looked at the sky, as if he was seeing something beautiful that no one else could see. Emperor Kael Thrun raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. Today, the emperor announced, We show the galaxy what happens to those who resist the Celestine dominion. This human thought he could stand against us. He was wrong. Let his death be a lesson to all who... I invoke the right of champions challenge. Valeth's voice rang across the square like a bell. Every head turned. Every eye found her. She stood at the edge of the platform, her white armor gleaming. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst. But her voice did not shake. The Emperor's face went pale with shock, then red with anger. Valeth, what are you doing? I am exercising my birthright, father. She walked forward, her steps steady. The right of champions challenge is ancient law. Any royal may claim a condemned prisoner as their champion. I am claiming this human. Whispers exploded through the crowd. This had not happened in 1,000 years. No one could believe what they were seeing. The Emperor stood, his golden scales bristling with fury. You would risk your life for this. This animal? I would risk my life for justice. Valeth met her father's eyes without flinching. Unless my emperor wishes to deny traditions that are older than his throne? Quote, it was a trap. And they both knew it. The emperor could not refuse without looking weak. The ancient laws were sacred. To break them would cause chaos in the dominion. For a long moment, father and daughter stared at each other. The crowd held its breath. Finally, the emperor spoke through clenched teeth. Very well. The right of champions challenge is granted. Choose his opponent. Valeth smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just jumped off a cliff and was hoping there was water below. I choose High General Torvax. The crowd erupted. Torvax himself stepped forward, his red scales gleaming. He looked surprised but not displeased. He was a warrior. He lived for combat. You honor me, princess, Torvax said. I will make his death quick. You will try, Valeth replied. The guards removed Marcus's chains. Someone pressed a simple sword into his hands. It was just a piece of metal. Nothing special. Torvax, meanwhile, drew his ceremonial blade. It hummed with plasma energy. One touch could cut through starship armor. The odds were impossible. Everyone knew it. But as Marcus walked toward the dueling circle, his eyes met Valeth's. And in that moment, she saw something that gave her hope. He understood. He understood that she had given him a fair fight instead of a slaughter. He understood that Torvax would not cheat. He understood that this was his chance, his only chance. Do not waste it, she whispered. Marcus did not look back. But she heard his reply, soft as the wind. I never do. The duel was about to begin. The dueling circle was made of black obsidian. It was 30 meters wide, polished so smooth that it reflected the sky like a dark mirror. For thousands of years, warriors had fought and died on this stone. Today, a human would fight here. High General Torvax stood on one side of the circle. His red scales gleamed like fire in the morning light. In his hand, he held his family's ceremonial blade. It had been passed down through 17 generations. The plasma edge hummed with deadly energy, glowing bright blue. One touch from that blade could cut through metal, stone, or bone. Marcus Cole stood on the other side. He held a simple short sword. Just steel. No technology. No special power. It looked like a toy compared to Torvax's weapon. The crowd was already cheering for Torvax. They were celebrating his victory before the fight even started. To them, this was entertainment, a chance to watch a human be destroyed by the greatest warrior in the Dominion. Princess Valeth stood at the edge of the circle, her hands clasped tight to hide their shaking. She had given Marcus a chance, but looking at him now, injured, exhausted, holding that simple sword, she wondered if she had only delayed his death. Emperor Kael'Thrun raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. The rules are simple, the Emperor announced. Fight until one cannot continue. There will be no pause, no mercy, no surrender. He looked at Marcus with cold hatred. Let the galaxy see what happens when a human faces a true warrior. His hand fell. Begin. Torvax moved like lightning. He crossed the distance between them in a single heartbeat, his plasma blade cutting through the air in a deadly arc. The blow was perfect. Fast. Powerful. It would have cut any Celestine warrior in half. But Marcus was not there. He moved at the last possible moment, sliding to the side like water flowing around a rock. The plasma blade missed him by inches. Valeth could feel the heat from where she stood. The crowd gasped. Torvax turned and attacked again. And again. And again. His blade was a blur of blue fire, striking from every angle. He was fast. Faster than any warrior Valeth had ever seen. But Marcus kept moving. He did not try to block. He did not try to fight back. He simply avoided. Every strike missed by a hair. Every killing blow found only empty air. He moved like smoke, like shadow, like something that could not be touched. Valeth watched with wide eyes. She had never seen anything like this. What is he doing? Her mother whispered beside her. He is not fighting. He is just running away. But Valeth understood. She had read about human combat techniques in the archives. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest, but they had survived on a dangerous planet for millions of years by being clever. Marcus was not running away. He was waiting. Every few seconds, his simple sword would flash out, not at Torvax's body but at his arms, his wrists, his legs, small cuts, tiny wounds that seemed to mean nothing. One cut on the wrist, another on the forearm, a slice across the back of the knee. The crowd laughed. The human cannot even land a real blow, someone shouted. He is pathetic, but Torvax was not laughing. 5 minutes into the fight, the general's movements began to slow. His strikes became less precise. Sweat dripped down his scales. 10 minutes, and his sword arm was trembling. Valeth suddenly understood what Marcus was doing. He was not trying to win through strength. He was winning through patience. Each small cut targeted a specific muscle, a specific tendon, a specific nerve. Alone, they were nothing. Together, they were slowly taking away Torvax's ability to fight. Humans called this attrition. They had invented it over thousands of years of fighting enemies, bigger and stronger than themselves. They did not need to be the most powerful, they just needed to be the most patient. The crowd grew quiet. They were beginning to realize something was wrong. Their champion was slowing down. The human was still moving like he had just started. 15 minutes. Torvax was breathing hard. His blade wavered in his grip. Blood dripped from a dozen small wounds. Violet against his red scales. Yield, Marcus said quietly. It was the first word he had spoken since the fight began. Torvax's eyes went wide with shock, then narrow with fury. A Celestine warrior does not yield to a human. Celestine warrior, he attacked with everything he had left. One final, desperate strike with all his remaining strength. The plasma blade screamed through the air toward Marcus's head. Marcus sidestepped. The blade buried itself in the obsidian floor, and before Torvax could pull it free, Marcus moved. His simple sword found the gap in the general's armor, just beneath the arm. The blade went in clean. Torvax fell. The crowd was silent. Completely, utterly silent. No one could believe what they had just seen. The greatest warrior in the Dominion was lying on the ground, defeated by a human with a simple sword. But then Marcus did something that no one expected. He dropped to his knees beside Torvax. He pressed his hands against the wound he had just made, and he began trying to stop the bleeding. Get a medic, Marcus shouted. He needs help now. The wound is not fatal if you act fast. Valeth stared. The crowd stared. Even the Emperor stared. Marcus Cole had won. By every law of combat, he had the right to let his enemy die. Torvax had wanted to kill him. Torvax had called him an animal. Torvax represented everything that had tried to destroy him, and Marcus was trying to save his life. Why? Torvax whispered, blood on his lips. Why would you help me? Marcus did not stop working. His hands were covered in violet blood. Because killing you was never the point. I just wanted to survive. And now that I have, there is no reason for you to die." Quote, medical officers rushed forward. They pushed Marcus aside and began treating Torvax. The general would live. The wound was serious but not deadly. Marcus stood slowly. He was exhausted. His old injuries had reopened. Blood dripped down his face. But he stood straight. Looking out at the silent crowd, Valeth felt tears running down her face. She did not try to hide them. This was what humans were. This was what her people had been so afraid of. Not their strength, not their weapons, but their impossible, illogical, beautiful capacity for mercy. They could kill when they needed to, but they chose not to when they did not have to. The Emperor's voice cut through the silence. It was cold and hard, but Valeth could hear the fear beneath it. The human has won. By ancient law, he is free. Every word sounded like it caused him pain. But hear me, Commander Cole. This changes nothing. Your species will still fall. Your worlds will still burn. Marcus looked up at the Emperor. His storm-colored eyes were calm. Maybe, he said, but not today. He turned and walked off the dueling circle. Behind him, the crowd remained silent. But Valeth could see something in their eyes. Something that had not been there before. Doubt. For the first time in their lives, they were questioning everything they had been told about humans. And that doubt was more dangerous to her father's empire than any weapon ever made. 3 days had passed since the duel. The palace was quiet, but Valeth could feel the tension everywhere. Servants whispered in corners. Guards looked at each other with uncertain eyes. Something had changed in the Dominion, and everyone knew it. Marcus Cole had been given a guest room in the palace. It was her father's way of pretending that nothing bad had happened. The official story said that the duel was a cultural exchange, and that the Emperor had shown mercy by sparing the human. It was all lies. But lies were what kept empires together. Valeth had not spoken to Marcus since the duel. She had wanted to. But there were always guards watching. Always cameras recording. Always her father's spies lurking nearby. Tonight, she finally found her chance. The palace gardens were empty at midnight. The 3 moons hung low in the sky, casting silver light over the flowers and fountains. Valeth walked the stone paths until she found him. Marcus stood alone, looking up at the stars. His wounds had been treated now. He looked better, stronger, but there was a tiredness in his eyes that had nothing to do with his body. "You are still here," Valeth said softly, coming to stand beside him. "I thought you would leave as soon as possible. My ship is not ready yet." He did not look at her. "And I wanted to see General Torvax before I go. Make sure he is healing well." Valeth shook her head in amazement. "You almost killed him. He wanted you dead. Why do you care about his health?" "Because holding on to hate is exhausting." Marcus finally turned to face her. "I have seen what hate does to people. It eats them from the inside. I would rather let it go and move forward." They stood in silence for a moment. The night wind carried the sweet smell of alien flowers. "The general asked about you," Valeth said. "He wants to understand why you saved him. I think you broke something in his mind. He does not know what to believe anymore." "Good." Marcus smiled slightly. "Broken beliefs can be rebuilt into something better." Valeth looked down at her hands. "What you did in that arena. It is causing problems for my father. People are talking, asking questions, wondering if everything they were told about humans is wrong. And that scares him? It terrifies him." She met his eyes. "He is talking about making the war worse. Attacking human worlds faster, before these dangerous ideas spread further." Marcus nodded slowly. He did not look surprised. "I expected that." "You expected it? And you are not worried?" "Princess, I am one soldier. I cannot stop a war by myself." He looked back up at the stars. "But I can plant seeds. I can make people think. I can show them that what they believe might be wrong. And if it does not work, If my father destroys your people anyway, then at least I tried. His voice was soft but steady. That is all any of us can do. Try. Hope. Keep going even when everything looks impossible. Valeth felt frustration rising in her chest. That is your plan? Hope? That is not a strategy. That is human? Marcus smiled again. Yes. It is very human. We are not logical creatures, Princess. We believe in things we cannot see. We fight for things we might never achieve. We love people we might lose. He shrugged. It is probably a design flaw, but it is also what makes us strong. Valeth was quiet for a long moment. She thought about everything she had learned in the past few days. Everything she had believed, and everything she now questioned. What should I do? She finally asked. I cannot stop my father. I cannot change the Dominion overnight. I am just one princess. Marcus turned to face her fully. His eyes were kind. You are not just anything, he said. You are someone who saw the truth when everyone around you believed lies. You are someone who risked everything to save a stranger. You are someone who cares about justice more than power. That does not feel like enough. It is more than enough. It is everything. He reached out and took her hand. His skin was warm and strange, so different from her scales. Change does not happen all at once, Princess. It happens slowly. One person at a time. One question at a time. One small act of courage at a time. And you think I can make that kind of change? I think you already have. He squeezed her hand gently. The people who watched that duel will never forget what they saw. They will tell their children. Their children will tell their children. And someday, maybe generations from now, the Dominion will be different. Because of what you did. Valeth felt tears burning in her eyes. I might not live to see it. Maybe not. But you will have started it. And that matters more than you know. He released her hand and stepped back. I have to leave tomorrow. My people need to know what happened here. They need to know that there are Celestines who are willing to question, to doubt, to hope for peace. Will I ever see you again? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled a real smile, warm and sad and full of something she could not name. I do not know. The universe is big, and the war is far from over. But I will remember you, Princess Valeth. I will remember that in the heart of an empire that wanted me dead, I found someone who saw me as a person. And I will remember you, she whispered. I will remember that humans are not monsters. That mercy is not weakness. That courage means being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. They stood together under the alien stars, two people from opposite sides of a war, connected by something stronger than politics or hatred. Then Marcus Cole walked away. Valeth watched him go until he disappeared into the shadows of the palace. She stayed in the garden until dawn. Epilogue. 6 months later, Princess Valeth walked into her father's war council uninvited. The generals stopped talking. Her father's face turned cold with anger. You are not welcome here. Daughter, I know. She placed a datapad on the table. But you need to see this. The Emperor looked at the screen. His face went pale. It was a list. 17 species across the Dominion had begun secret talks with the Human Federation. Trade agreements, peace treaties, cultural exchanges. All of them mentioned the same thing. The story of a human warrior who defeated a Celestine general and then saved his life. The story had spread further than anyone had imagined. It is too late to stop it, Valeth said calmly. The idea is out there now. The idea that humans are not monsters. The idea that peace is possible. I will crush them, her father growled. I will burn every human world until you will try. Valeth stood tall, unafraid. But you taught me to read power, father. And the power is shifting. Your empire is built on fear and lies. Marcus Cole showed everyone that there is another way. She turned and walked toward the door. Then she stopped. One soldier, she said quietly. He was just one soldier. And he changed everything. Imagine what will happen when you face their armies. She left her father sitting in silence. And somewhere across the stars, Commander Marcus Cole looked up at an unfamiliar sky and smiled. The war was not over. But for the first time in 100 years, peace had a chance. The end.